Did you know that we could literally stop all of this price gouging, job elimination, racial discrimination just by refusing to patronize businesses? I mean, yeah, maybe we'd have to stand in long lines instead of going to the self check. Yeah, and that's an inconvenience, but we don't work there. I'm saying they already raised the prices on us. We're paying more for the food and we bagging our own groceries. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I'll keep saying this. The difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. We have to be willing to sacrifice. That is a cost that we pay for freedom and respect and our dignity. These businesses don't run without our dollars, period. I know. I know. That's no way to start a show. So I'll start over and I'll be right back. Hey, welcome to In Your Ear Radio. I am your host, Latoya. Always very happy to be with you on this fine Saturday. I'm going to say it's in the 70s, the high 70s today. Getting a little rain, feeling a little muggy, feeling more like Midwesternist as far as the air. Look, went outside yesterday. Before I went outside, I just looked outside and I saw the rain. So in my mind, it was going to be, a little cooler. So I dressed a little like it was a little cooler. And it was hot. It was humid and muggy in Las Vegas. I don't know where you are today, but I'm sure it's still humid and muggy in Las Vegas. So thank you for joining me. As you guys know, I always say your presence is my presence. So I appreciate you all who are watching me live on Facebook and on YouTube. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, y'all. I had to, it was a lot going on, a lot of family celebrations, a lot of that family reunion that was awesome. I just love family. And I just love taking the time to be around family and just making memories and sharing memories and just, just everything that's involved in it, breaking bread, festivities, all of that, libations. And then the following weekend, I was actually celebrating my birthday, y'all. Yeah, the turnout was real. Listen, I had the best time ever. My cup is still full from joy from all of those who celebrated with me, those who wish me a happy birthday. Yeah, this is quite a milestone for me. So listen, I'm very grateful to be present and to be alive and to be well and to be able to say that I am, I'm up there now, you know what I'm saying? But I want to tell y'all this. For those who got jokes about the age and stuff, you can get, as an adult, you can get AARP at anyage.com. Go tweet it. All right. So I just need y'all to know that because, I used to tease people, but now I'm in that group where, people can tease me, but it's all good. I'm very, very happy and very, very pleased to be here. And as I continue to live, I just hope that God is pleased with what I've done so far in my life thus far. And I'll continue to work to please him. I see you, Gary, on Facebook. Thank you for joining me. Also, Marmac, what you say? What up? We in this thing. Okay, I see you. You in this thing. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate y'all so much. And all the rest of you. Listen, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So did I ask y'all if y'all miss me? I miss y'all too. I miss you so much. I followed you. Some of y'all. I've been following some people, not all y'all, because some of y'all, I don't know. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, so it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention because very important. It affects 2.3 million women worldwide. Breast cancer does, and even men. 2,800 men in the U.S. will be diagnosed with breast cancer in 2025, and yeah. about 510 of those men are expected to die from this disease. So it's very important that we get our annual mammograms. I suggest doing it on your birthday. That way you don't forget, or around your birthday, so you don't forget, because it's very important. And the whole point of having Breast Cancer Awareness Month is just to bring awareness and attention, raise money, to hopefully get people involved with people who are experiencing this cancer, to have some level of support. Also, there's a metastatic breast cancer. Also, is a big deal, because what that is, a metastatic breast cancer, is that once it starts in the breast and then it goes through your entire body, and then of course most people succumb to their death due to that. So there's a lot of attention being brought to that as well. So this just bringing awareness to encourage not just women but men as well. To go get checked, go get your breast exams, get your annual mammograms. Again, do it around your birthday. Shout out to Pretty Girls Walks. They did a pink walk today, because we know that breast cancer, you wear pink to represent or acknowledge the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to bring attention to it. But the Pretty Girl Walks, they did a 6:30 a.m. walk. I told them I was born at night, so it's hard for me to get up early. But a shout out to them for those who got out and walked in Henderson to represent the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And also they do it every Saturday at 6:30. But so that's dope, and I'm sure a lot of other people are acknowledging it and giving their respects to those who are living with breast cancer, and those who have lost their loved ones to it. My condolences. My heart goes out to anyone. It's just scary. Cancer worldwide is the second leading cause of death, right next to heart disease. Okay, so it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Women today have 1 in 8 chance of developing breast cancer over their lifetime, and a 1 in 43 chance of dying from breast cancer. Nearly 30% of women diagnosed with early age breast cancer later develop metastatic breast cancer. Again, the metastatic breast cancer is when it travels throughout your entire body. Interesting fact is that lesbian, gay, and bisexual cisgender women may have a higher risk of cancer than heterosexual women. And they say that that's due to risk factors like fewer childbirths and higher alcohol use. The average lifetime risk that a man in the US will develop breast cancer is 1 in 726. Trans feminine women, or trans feminine people, taking gender affirming hormone therapy, including estrogen, are at a higher risk of developing breast cancer than cisgender men. So I think that also includes women who take birth control that has high doses of estrogen as well. Estrogen works both ways, good and bad. It has its pros and cons, but just so you know, there are about 4 million breast cancer survivors in the US, including women receiving breast cancer treatment. So, hey, listen, we can survive. We go get checked out and get early detection. That is the key. So while the percentage of women dying from breast cancer has gone down in the recent decades, and I'm sure that's due to education and having access to medical attention, Black women remain more likely to die from breast cancer than women of any other racial or ethnic group. And we can get into that, of course, right? There's a lot to be said about that. That stems from just doctors sometimes just not giving the same attention to Black women, us not having access to medical care, or just not understanding or having the knowledge of how to do breast exams. So when you're doing the breast exams, you can go to www.breastcancer.org. There's also information on the website, again, www.breastcancer.org, to learn how to do a self-examination. It's best to do it in the shower when you're soaked up, so you can just slide around. You can have your significant other check too. You know what I'm saying? It might be a happy ending in the end. You know what I'm saying? You can play. It can be foreplay. You get a breast exam. Whew, you never know. But you can go there and get more information on how to do an exam. It's good to check under your armpits too. I love my gynecologist. She is so thorough. She always talks to me like I'm 12, just reaching puberty, when she's explaining everything to me, but I appreciate her for it. But yeah, get in the shower, soap up, or, lay next to you, like I said, and get it done. But check it. And if you feel anything unusual, contact your doctor immediately and get it checked out. There are free exams available. Again, www.breastcancer.org for more information in regards to that. So, yeah. And listen, I said it was my birthday, right? Shout out to everybody celebrating a birthday. Shout out to all the Libras. Libras is the best sign. I don't care what nobody's saying. Yes, I'm biased. But the thing about a Libra is we're the scales, right? So we're really strong about justice and righteousness, and there has to be balance. Like we can't be way up here. You got them cancers, they be way up here or way down here, and they good either way, right? The rest of us are okay. I ain't gonna just pinpoint cancer, but I'm just saying there's different signs that do them. You know what I'm saying? I gravitate to more towards an Aries or a Pisces or a Scorpio as far as compatibility, and some Geminis. Shout out to my brother. But overall, Libras, I say, are the best sign. Is because we need balance. We need things to be right and righteous. We can't just have it either or. In order for us, our spirits to be at peace, we need the world to be at peace. And that's not to say that me as a Libra, that my spirit isn't at peace. It gets a little uneasy sometimes because there's a lot going on in the world, right? But I learned to manage that. And that's another way to balance. I learned to manage that. I just deep breathe and then just finding things that take me away from the pressures of the world, because we got a lot going on, but there's still ways, even with everything that's going on, there's still ways to balance. And that is important. Shout out to Iceberg Slick that said he's a Taurus. Listen, I ain't mad at a Taurus. Taurus gets things done. They straight up, they're about that business. They're not haters. You know what I'm saying? One of my good friends is a Taurus. She passed away years ago. But yes, I ain't mad at a Taurus either. Okay. Shout out to the Tauruses, but it's Libra season. I just say it.com. Tweet it. Yes. Listen, I need you guys to really focus on this AI, because I was just looking on Facebook. I was looking on Facebook the other day, and it was a shout out to birthday for Vivica Fox. So I just assumed she was a Libra. I didn't read it. And that's one thing I just want to reiterate as we get into this content is, I always say believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see, and really, really drill in. If you're just reading a headline, the headline is intentional. I've learned that you have to put a catchy headline to get people to drill in. And sometimes that's all they read, right? That's all we read, I'll say. And so, but I just want to encourage you guys to drill in when you see things. So again, I'm seeing this come across my feed. Happy birthday, Vivica. Picture, and she's holding a cake and it says 70 on it and it says happy 70th birthday. And I'm like, I know she ain't 70. Now I know black don't crack, but I know she don't look nowhere near 70. And I just know she's not 70. But I didn't pay it no mind. I'm like, whatever, because it was real. It looks real. Everything looked real about it. But later on, I did Google it. She was born in July, for one. So I think that would make her somewhere near like a Cancer or a Leo, somewhere in, I think, a Cancer. But she was born July 30th, 1964, and she's 61 years old, and she still looks good. Don't get it wrong. She still looks good, but AI is becoming the devil. And I just need you guys to know and understand that. The House just passed a bill recently, early in the year, that gives, that says that there will be no regulations on AI for 10 years. Why would they do that? I mean, if I was in office as a public representative, I would definitely put major regulations on AI, and that's artificial intelligence for those who are not familiar with that acronym. I would definitely do that, because it's getting scarier and scarier, because you can't tell fact from fiction anymore. Because, remember when video games first came out, they tried to make them look real. You look at the video games and the boxing games, but you can tell it was still a computer. Nowadays, you really can't tell. I saw a baby, some lady was holding her baby. It was a grandma, and they was like face to face. And I was thinking, because when you're that close to somebody, when I'm that close to somebody, I hold my breath, because I don't want to ingest, I don't want to inhale anything that might be coming out of your breath and or smell. But the baby, they were making a joke about it, saying the baby, then they had the baby talking like, your breath stink. And we know the baby didn't say that, because the baby probably can't even talk. But it looks real. Like, you can't tell the difference except using your critical thinking and just your intelligence to know that that baby could not be saying that, period. But artificial intelligence is very, very spooky. And I just encourage people to really, 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 read, go to a trusted site. When you see something that sounds like it might be real and true, excuse me. And that's across the board. Like anything you read, if it's about politics, it's about health and wellness, if it's about, race, if it's about education, everything you have to double check. I know they say something in construction that you measure twice and cut once. Well, I want to incorporate that, or encourage all of us to incorporate that in what we come across our timeline. Read twice and then go do the research. Don't just accept what you see, because it's really spooky out there. Look, shout out to Marmac. He said he thought I was talking about Allen Iverson. Anyway, shout out to Allen Iverson. Good dude. He has a book out. I'm hearing very good reviews just about him as a person. I never really studied him or did the knowledge on who he is as a man, but I've heard nothing but good about him. Like, he's a real gentle soul. He's a good dude. So, all right, we can talk about Allen Iverson too, but I'm talking about artificial intelligence, the fake stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Iceberg Slick is also adding to the conversation on YouTube. He says AI is going to have to be taken to the highest court. Yes, these Michael Jackson and Tupac videos are way too real. Yes. And just like with anything, you guys, just like with anything, they don't necessarily just dump it on us. The only people who are just dumping things on us are trying to do it by force, not choice, is y'all's president. Shout out to y'all's president, right? But overall, they're real slick with it, right? They condition us to accept and receive these things. If you think about even just when we talk about having a cashless society, well, they made it inconvenient to use cash. So credit cards and having a debit card is more convenient, and we fall for that. Opening up, the show, I talked about how we can really change the dynamics of how we are, how we are received business wise. They should be catering to us, not us accepting whatever they give us, because they can't be successful without our dollars. And still we go to self-check. We don't even get paid for that. You know what I'm saying? We don't even get paid for that, but still we get in self-check. Why? Because it's convenient. Because when we look over, there's only 2 people in an 8 checkout line where there should be 8 humans. There's only 2. We don't want to stand in that long line because we got things to do, but we have to be willing to sacrifice. And right now we can't take it to the highest court because we know the highest court is paid and bought by an administration that is really y'all's president's bitch. I'm just going to say it, and I said it. Yeah, I said it. Shout out to Vegas Gates is also in the chat on YouTube. Thank you so much, saying, so are you getting on board with it or staying away? So let me just roll it back. Getting on board with AI? Refresh my memory. Okay. And then I can answer that question. But yeah, so that's creepy. And then you think about it now. I mean, it was bad enough they introduced us to artificial intelligence by way of auto-tune. Shout out to Roger and Zach, who did it they use instruments still. They had a talent, they did instruments. So they kind of brought it to the forefront. But then now you have people who literally use sound to make voices. We don't have the gift of people's beautiful voices. God gave us all gifts and talents. Not all of us can sing. Not all of us are great writers or actors or artists, musicians, but we all have our gifts. But those gifts are being replaced by machines, artificial intelligence. And there's even right now, what is this? What is she called? It's an Olive Branch based artist. Her name is Talisha Jones, and she is responsible for the Xenia Monet. And that's an AI, not Allen Iverson, Marmac, artificial intelligence generated artist resembling an African-American woman and singer. So Monet's main genre is mix of gospel and R&B, and it's gained much of its attraction first on TikTok. But anyway, it's getting over 3 million streams, and they have a record deal. And this machine, people are listening to this, closing their eyes and enjoying a melody that's not even real. It is not God's given gift. It's a machine that is getting paid, and the person who created is making the money. Do y'all agree with that? I don't like it. I don't like it because, I could easily, because if it's about looks and, body and everything, a lot of people that have come out over the years that have been entertainers might not necessarily be the best. They not know Whitney Houston. They not know Luther Vandross. They not know, I'm going to say Keith Sweat, but somebody in the audience say, Keith Sweat ain't at the top, but I'm going to be an antagonist right now. Okay, I'm going to be an antagonist. But I'm just saying, there's great voices out there. Mariah Carey, Anita Baker, just so many great voices that deserve the praise and the appreciation for their voice. And now we're going to be praising and appreciating the machine. People are going to be idolizing and going to what? A stage. It's going to be hologrammed. They did that with Tupac, right? I think they tried it with Whitney Houston. Like, why are we buying into this? Society is conditioning us. They're not forcing us on this. They're accepting it. We see on our page, on our social media pages, these kids talking mess. It got my attention for a minute, but then I realized if I like this or if I view it, I'm going to continue to see this. And I'm not telling the algorithm that this is what I want to see. I like facts and I like truth. And I don't want you feeding me fiction and falsehoods and things that are manipulating what's really happening. Because at the end of the day, one of us is going to have to prove that we didn't kill somebody, because they're going to have a whole AI setup for us. And we got to be able to prove that we didn't do it. So that's what it's coming down to. So Vegas Gates is adding to the conversation again. And he says that that's the problem. Most people will do no research. Amen. They are running with the headline and then the first thing they see. But that's what people are banking on, right? Society banks on that. They know, we are living in a world right now where they're trying to dumb us down at a high rate, and it's working. It's working. They're working overtime to do it, and it's working. So I just want you guys to just stay alert. You know what I'm saying? Be vigilant and understand that this is what their intentions is. So don't fall for the okie doke. Marmack is also adding to the conversation. She says, I think they're using AI to memorialize some of our cultural greats, making it look cool so we'll accept it as a spoon fed to us. Yeah, by way of AI. Exactly. So they're using what they're playing on our emotions. Okay. They're playing on our emotions. They're playing on our interests. They know what we like. They know what grabs us, and they're using that against us. So unfortunately, y'all, we have war with AI, and we don't have the protections under this administration. Again, they have a 10-year free for all to do whatever they want to do. And then by the time they undo that under a new administration, God willing, we get that, a lot can't be undone. A lot can't be undone. 50% of people who are actually exonerated for crimes they did not commit, I'm saying spending 15, 20, 30 years in jail, 50% of those people who are actually exonerated for crimes they did not commit, rape, murder, are Black people. Okay, so we have to be concerned that this is the thing that's going to happen. Yes, okay, that's you, Keith Sweat. I knew I was shouting out somebody Keith Sweat. I'm a light-skinned Keith Sweat. Anyway, so anyway, AI is a big deal. I got to give a shout out to the birthday for Fannie Lou Hamer. If y'all don't know who she is, she's one of the greats. One of the people that inspires me. I think my spirit, her soul, her spirit lies within me. She's one of the women that keeps me motivated, even though she's no longer here. She keeps me motivated to encourages me and affirms the things that I do when I speak out, my level of activism and things that I speak out about. I'm on the right path. So many have come before me. Our ancestors have come before us and have paved the way for us to be able to be where we are today. And we have so much further to go. And I just want to shout out Fannie Lou Hamer. For those who may not know, I'll just give you a bit of a little history on her. She was the last of 20 children born to Lula Ella and James Lee Townsend, who were sharecroppers who migrated in Mississippi. Fannie Lou Hamer loved reading and excelled in spelling bees and reciting poetry. And this is going to be interesting as I get into the conversation as we talk about voter suppression, because that's one of the things that she spearheaded as far as trying to get our people to be able to vote without the voter suppression that was, put upon us by, those who wanted to be supreme and the Confederacy. But at age 12, she had to leave school to help support her aging parents. And by age 13, she would pick 200 to 300 pounds of cotton daily while living with polio. And just a side note, because y'all know what's been happening in the news. I've been away for 2 weeks, but we know that we have an attack on vaccines. Listen, do what you do, but vaccines were actually created on the continent of Africa. This comes from us. And we did this to help keep the population alive and well and to keep us from dropping dead. And so vaccines are a good thing. Yes, as with anything, there's some side effects. You know what I'm saying? If you read the back of a bottle of Tylenol, or that's another issue, right? Or any medicine, there's always going to be side effects, unfortunately. But vaccines aren't a bad thing, because no one today is suffering from polio. And if you do the knowledge on what polio did to people, it crippled them. Okay, so having that vaccine was a big deal. That was during our time. My grandmother lived during those times where polio was an issue. But anyways, she continued to develop her reading and interpretation skills in Bible study at her church. And in 1944, after the plantation owner discovered her literacy, she was selected as a time and record keeper. Okay, this is, again, important information to know as we talk about how voter suppression was put into place for a woman such as Fannie Lou Hamer. So she married Perry Pap Hamer, a tractor driver on the Marlowe plantation. So they worked on a plantation as sharecroppers, and they remained there for the next 18 years. Now, they wanted to have kids of their own, but unfortunately, they were not able to have a family because a white doctor subjected Fannie Lou Hamer to a hysterectomy without her consent while she was undergoing surgery to remove a uterine tumor. Okay, so this was a forced sterilization, which was a common method of population control in Mississippi that targeted poor African-American women. This is during our time, you guys. This is during our parents' time and our grandparents' time. It wasn't that long ago. Members of the Black community called the procedure a Mississippi appendectomy. Go look it up and find out more about that, okay? They were doing their best to try to reduce our population, which is another thing we're going to get into as well. I don't know what's going on with these crazy white people. If you ain't a crazy white people, don't be offended. But there are some crazy y'all, y'all got some crazy white people out here that are trying to eliminate us, except for the use of labor, free labor at that. So it was called a Mississippi appendectomy. The Hamers later raised two girls that they adopted and eventually adopted two more. So although she couldn't have kids, they did adopt four children. And one day, Dorothy Jean, one of the kids, Dorothy Jean, she died at the age of 22, one of the adopted kids, of an internal hemorrhage after she was denied admission to a local hospital because of her mother, Fannie Lou Hamer's activism. Okay. So that's how deep it runs. Okay. That's how deep it runs. Listen. But getting into the voter suppression, in 1962, Fannie Lou Hamer and 17 others attempted to vote, but failed a literacy test. Remember, I just told y'all who she is, right? She wrote poetry. The owner of the plantation made her the leader of the time and record keeper. Listen, that wasn't reading was not an issue for her, okay? But yes, she was not able to vote because the powers that be said that she had failed a literacy test, which meant that they could not vote. On December 4th, just after she returned to her hometown, Hamer went to the courthouse in Indianola, where she took the test again, but she failed again and she was turned away as a result. She told the registrar, you're gonna see me. She told him, you're gonna see me every 30 days till I pass. She said what she said and she meant it. And on January 10th, 1963, she took the test a third time. She was successful and was informed that she now was a registered voter in Mississippi. But when she attempted to vote that fall, she was informed that she was not allowed to vote. And, yeah. And they put another roadblock in there saying that the county required voters to have a poll tax receipt. So now she needed a receipt. Like, this is, when they say history repeats itself or history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, it sounds the same. We're experiencing this now with voter suppression. Every time with anything in life that progresses the Black community as a whole, they put something in front of us to slow us down, to stop us, to put roadblocks. We can go back to the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where we had our own communities and things of that nature, and they were burned to the ground. We can talk about how the health disparities were, we're dying at rapid rates when it comes to, heart disease, cancer, any ailment, how we are 14% of the population, but disproportionately incarcerated. And again, I just mentioned that 50% of those people who are exonerated from being unlawfully convicted of things are Black people. So there's always a roadblock in the way that prevents us from being successful. And it's just what they continue to do. For some reason, they don't want us to be on a level playing field. They don't want to just have harmony and just peace. But that's what they did later. So after she attempted to vote again, because she was like, middle fingers up, she was fired by her boss. Now, this is a man who saw saw her intelligence, respected her work ethic, but did not want to see her progress either. And that's another thing we need to talk about because, we have, even in the workplace, we have people who are not melanated, we'll call them white or just non-melanated people who we consider our friends. They smile at us and they seem like they're our friends, but when it comes down to the advancement of us, then they show their true colors. And this is just exactly what this man did. So times haven't changed. I'm sure many of you who work now have had that experience where you're working with somebody who's cool. Y'all might carpool together. Y'all might go have happy hour together. Just have a good time. Y'all chopping it up, talking about the kids, maybe, whatever y'all do. But when it's time for you to progress, they're throwing you under the bus. So again, that's what he did. After praising her and putting her in a position of leadership, he didn't want her to have the power to vote. I wonder why, because I hear a lot of people say your power don't vote, and your power don't vote. That's what happens when you talk too fast. I hear a lot of people say that your vote doesn't count and it doesn't hold any power, and that these parties are two wings of the same bird, and all of this craziness. Meanwhile, the powers that be are tickled. They love it. Keep that energy because they know the fewer people that vote makes it easier for them to maintain power. And in this case, it's the Republicans. It wasn't always that. There's some in history during Fannie Lou Hamer's time, it was the Democrats. So it's not about, in politics, it's not necessarily about, as a quote says, in politics, there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, only permanent interests. So the party name is not really the conversation we should be having. It's the interest in the party. And you just really have to pick that apart. Because if you think about it now, if we had a Democratic-led party, we wouldn't have, we gained the Affordable Care Act under a Democratic-led party. We've gained a lot of pluses. Nobody's perfect, no party's perfect, but I'm just throwing it out there for those who like to argue about politics and politics. So yeah, she went ahead and did it, even though she was fired and her husband was required to stay on the land until the end of the harvest. He was required to stay. So when you think about sharecropping, I think about that in a level of credit cards, right? Because you're getting credit for work, and then of course you can't pay it on time, so now you have interest. So you're always wedded or betted or indebted to paying something off. So you always owe somebody. Owe me back like you owe your tax. Owe me back like 40 acres the black. That's Naja. Okay, go on and listen to it. Yeah. Anyway, so that's kind of similar, to me. It's just another form of slavery. There's ways around it. You put it in law, and so now, okay, we can't do it this way. We got to find another way to do it. And that's how I look at it in this situation, where this man was forced to stay on the plantation to the end of harvest so that this white man could reap the benefits of his labor. So they ended up moving between homes after several days. They had, it was a lot going on. They were getting threats and all of these things. They were getting shot at like 15 times. Thank goodness nobody was hurt. But she was quoted saying, I guess if I had an issue, I'd have been a little scared. No, I'll start over with the quote. So after all of this threatening and losing her job and racist threats, being shot at 15 times, again, thank God no one was injured, she was quoted having said that, I guess if I had any sense, I'd have been a little scared. I would have been a little scared. I'm paraphrasing. But what was the point of being scared? She said, the only thing they could do was kill me. And it kind of seemed like they've been trying to do that a little bit at a time since I could remember. They're my people. They're my ancestors. You know what I'm saying? What is it called? What did 50 Cent say? I can't stand his butt either. Get rich or die trying. She said, get freedom or die trying. Get freedom or die trying. These my people. Those are people that I look to for guidance and affirmation and everything that comes with the struggle, because it is. I remind you guys that this is earth, not heaven. It's always going to be a fight. This is what we came here for. Any animal, any living creature is fighting to live, even though, life ain't always all of that. It ain't always all of that. She succumbed to police brutality in June of 1963. She went to a voter registration workshop through her church. They sat at a cafe. The cops came in, bothering them. You know what I say? Black people just want to be left alone. Shout out to some white woman who was saying black people don't want revenge. They just want to be left alone, okay? And that is a reality. We'll let y'all go do you. Just let us do us. But that's not good enough. So these people are out here just trying to recruit people to vote, because we understand that voting is power. When you put people in positions and political seats, this gives them the opportunity to allocate resources. So we're already paying taxes, period. So whether you're voting or whether you're part of the political system, whether you're paying attention, whether you're listening, whether you finished or you done, I'm just saying anything now. But anyway, if you just, whatever the situation may be, however you are, whether you're active or not, your money is active. Your money is being moved around from the military to Elon Musk to some, under some administrations to help for subsidies. You never know. God forbid, you may be out of work and you might need some extra income. You might need to get SNAP. You might need to get Medicaid. You might need Medicare. You might need a commute to and from the doctor's office. Shout out to when I was a kid. This is my second round with braces, but I remember my doctor's trip was a cab ride. We didn't have a car at that time. And under Medicaid, we were able to get picked up and taken to get our medical checkups and get, have my braces and just different things. And so these things matter. And again, my mother worked at some point and she was able to pay. She paid into the system, whether you want to or not. They take it out of your check. When you pay taxes, when you buy bubble gum, whatever the situation may be, these are our tax dollars that are being allocated all over distributed. So having people in political positions gives them the opportunity to distribute our tax dollars. And we want to make sure they're distributing to benefit not just their pockets, not our money, but our pockets too. We need taxation with representation. But anyway, so that's all she was trying to do, is get people out there, encouraging them to vote, because that way you can get the right people in office and be able to move the needle for our interests, right? For our interests, because, at the end of the day, we all really want the same things. I don't care what color your skin is. But that's what it was. But anyway, so the police antagonized them until and followed them around, and once the people that were with them asked took down their name and their license plate number, and they said, "Oh, you think you're an uppity Negro," and so they pulled them over on the side of the road. This is a story that we've heard before. We've seen it before, even in our time in 2025. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can tell us a story about something similar. I definitely can. But they pulled them over, excuse me, and antagonized them further. Let me sip a little tea before I feel a woof coming on. So again, the police officers were not happy that these people were happy and living in their blissful world and then just trying to do right by their people as community, and pulled them over on the side of the road and harassed them, booked the 15-year-old, beat the 15-year-old June Johnson, beat the other people that were with her, arrested them, took her in, beat her, held her down and beat her to the point where, again, remember, she was suffering from polio, and they also caused other injuries, permanent injuries to her. None of this stopped her, though. Many teenagers were brutalized and beat, and incarcerated women and men. They even pulled her dress up over her shoulders and exposed her body to 5 men. These are police officers, y'all. She was incarcerated. Again, this is Fannie Lou Hamer, who was born on the same day that I was born, except in 1917, before I was born, actually. So just the history of her. She just never quit. She never quit. She spoke before Congress to the point where even as she spoke, the president had them interrupt because it was a live broadcast, but they didn't like what she was saying, so they interrupted the whole broadcast to say that to play a commercial or something because she was talking too good. They didn't want the world to hear that. They're always trying to keep us dumbed down. She did so many things. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. She made it her mission to make land more accessible to African Americans. So she founded a small pig bank. This is one of the other things she did during her time living, part of her legacy. With this, and she started a donation with a donation from the NCNW of 5 boars and 50 gilts. So what this did is through the pig bank, a family could care for a pregnant female pig until it bore its offspring. Subsequently, they would raise the piglets and use them for food and financial gain. So she made a way for Black people, Black families, to be able to have some form of resource and income, not dependent, separate from what white people were offering. Okay, this wasn't sharecropping. Like, you come over and help us take care of these pigs, we're gonna give you a pig, and then you have equity as well. So this was a form of equity. So this was a beautiful thing, and it caused, families to have financial gain. Within 5 years, thousands of pigs were available for breeding, and Fannie Lou used the success of the bank to begin fundraising. Mind you, I said bank, okay? That's another thing we need to think of as community, separating ourselves from people who don't like us, don't love us, will switch up on us, like, switch harder on us than somebody on the host show. You understand what I'm talking about? So yes, she used that gain and began fundraising for the Maine Farming Corporation. So she got all this money and she continued on. She read up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And she was able to convince the then editor of the Harvard Crimson, James Fallows, to write an article that advocated for donations for the FCC. So eventually the FCC, which is another program that this is Fannie Lou's program to help, build generational wealth for the Black community, raised about $8,000. I don't know what that was in that time, but I think that was a lot of money. And, if we compare 8,000 to this time, but it enabled Fannie Lou to purchase 40 acres. Does that sound familiar? Well, we were supposed to get 40 acres and a mule, 40 acres of land. So listen, they didn't give it to us like they were supposed to, as they agreed to, you know what I'm saying? But she found a way to get it for us. That, you picking up what I'm putting down right now? I'm talking about community and how we can't depend on other people to do what they're supposed to do. Like, we have to find a way around the situation to do what was necessary for us to survive. So they didn't give us what they promised, what the agreement was, what we shook hands on, but she found a way to do it. She found a way to do it with pigs. And she purchased 40 acres of land previously owned by a Black farmer who could no longer afford to occupy it. So she didn't let that go back to the bank. She didn't let no white man occupy it and take over it. She went and took that money and kept the wealth within the community so that she can continue to help others build generational wealth to do for self and not have to depend on these slick ass, tricky ass, evil, you know who I'm talking about. So shout out to that, right? And so She bought that land. This became the Freedom Farm. And the farm had three main objectives. One, to establish an agricultural organization that could supplement the nutritional needs of America's most disenfranchised people. So I'll say that again. She took the money that she raised by having people help her raise pigs and then saying, you take your pig, you have more pigs, and you can have food and you can, have money, whatever you need. And she took that money that she earned, also helping other people to buy a farm from a man who was struggling, who couldn't afford the farm. Then she read up again. Y'all know what I'm talking about. She read up again and she used that money to, again, the Freedom Farm. And she helped to establish an agricultural organization that could supplement the nutritional needs of America's most disenfranchised people. And y'all know who that was. Number two, and to provide acceptable housing development. So you got 40 acres. Now you don't have to depend on these evil, crazy racist people to provide land and housing for your people, right? Because we can't depend on that, even to this day, even with our tax dollar being attributed to the land, being attributed to construction and the infrastructure, we still cannot count on them to do right by us. But this is what Fannie Lou did. You see what I'm saying? She was born on my birthday. I got to big her ups. Okay, so that was what she did. She used, secondly, she provided housing development within 40 acres. And then thirdly, she created an entrepreneurial business incubator. She created an entrepreneurial business incubator that would provide resources for new companies. So if you was coming up with something, Black people with y'all small businesses, she got you. I got you, boo. Come on over here. I got 40 acres. What you need, I got you. As well as retraining for those with limited education but manual labor experience. She covered it all, y'all. That's what Fannie Lou did in her time, suffering from polio, suffering from police brutality, suffering from not being able to have children because these white people doing forced hysterectomies on her uterus. Like, this is what she did still in her time. So don't give up. Don't give up, y'all. Don't give up, and don't say we can't do it. We have history teaches us we've been doing it, and this is how we do it. We do for self, for us, by us. We find a way. We know how to do it. We know what we do with lemons. We make lemonade. What do we do with pigs? We make chitlins. We found a way to survive. And amongst all the awards that she's received over the years, one of the last awards she received was on January 4, 2025 from President Joe Biden. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Of course, she had passed away. I'm looking up the date. I didn't have it written down, but I think she died in the 70s. I could be wrong. I will Google that. But anyway, did y'all catch the rapture? Did anybody get raptured? I guess you wouldn't be able to tell me if you were. I ain't talking about Anita Baker. Listen, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so I'm catching up. I know the rapture was between September 23rd, 24th, and 25th, right? It was supposed to be this big rapture where the good people, living or deceased, were going to be taken up to heaven, right? So this was something that was brought about by a pastor. His name was Joshua. It sounds like an African name, Kalea. He claimed he's a South African. Yeah, he's a South African pastor, and he claimed that that the rapture would happen on these dates here, 2025, the 23rd, 24th, or 25th. He wasn't sure about the dates, but he said his predictions gained traction. He said what he said was that I think he dreamed it up. That he said that there would be a rapture. Basically, people would be just swept up into the heavens. And he said, and it's been rumored that his predictions gained traction on social media platforms, particularly TikTok, where decisions under hashtags like Rapture Talk have surged. Maya Kayla, forgive me for butchering your name, claimed that these are revelations that came to him in a vision. So he had a vision. Maybe he was awake and he saw it. That could happen, right? Where he heard Jesus telling him about an imminent rapture. We've heard of the rapture. This is something within the Christian beliefs. When we talk about rapture, we talk about Anita Baker caught up in the rapture of love. Listen. Okay, anyway, the song is playing in my head, but I will not hurt your ears and sing to you, okay? But y'all, some of y'all humming Anita Baker. But this rapture is, popular in the Christian belief that some point, I think there's even movies about the rapture, that some point in the future, Jesus will return to gather his followers, both living and deceased, to take them to heaven. Then, and they said this event is often associated with the second coming of Christ and is described as in biblical passages such as the Thessalonians, the Solium, the Solonians, y'all can tell I ain't read the Bible in a while. Listen, chapters 4, verse 16 and 17. Anyway, so the thing about it is, I don't believe anyone was raptured. I did the numbers to see if there were more deaths during that time. And ironically, in the United States, there has been fewer deaths than the prior years. I doubt that there was an actual rapture because in the September of 2024, there were 3.1 million deaths in the United States compared to September of 2025, where there was 2.4 million deaths. So I don't know if there was a rapture. And how you take the dead people up? Does that include people that's cremated? But we're talking about the spirit. But my thing is, the spirit's already gone. Or do the spirit get trapped here? I think some people's spirits do get trapped, and I think some people's spirits do leave the universe. I was reading something, and this is random, where somebody said the stars in the sky represent holes so that we can breathe. Forgive me, I just had to get that off. It was on my brain. It was on my brain. Listen, okay, so Iceberg Slick said there was a rapture, we all just failed. That's messed up. Listen, if you still here, look, I'm gonna give you some words of encouragement. If you are still here, that means you still have more work to do, and God is not done with you yet. So don't you feel away because you wasn't swept up. And a whole lot of people weren't, because like I said, there were more people who died last year who left Earth, I'll say, because again, this rapture includes the dead. So yeah, so if you're still here and you didn't get caught up in a rapture, you're not a bad person. There's some bad people still here, obviously. There's some bad people who are still here, but it just means you have more work to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So Fannie Lou Hamer actually died. I was about right, 1977, a few years after I was born. Okay, all that energy was poured into me because I feel her spirit within me. So yeah, so I don't know. Anyway, but the thing is, good news is COVID deaths are down. The crazy thing is, most of the deaths, I think they have a weekly report for WHO, that's World Health Organization, reporting between September 21st of 2025 up until September 21st, 2025. Weekly reports, there's 250 deaths in high income countries. Here in the United States, I think it was 191. Europe was 60. In other places, it was like 0. So yeah. I mean, compared to what we was going through, y'all, that's a good look. That's a good look. So yeah. Anyway, so speaking of deaths, I guess rapture, does that mean you die or you just get taken away? Shout out to our lady who is currently a new ancestor, Asada Shakur, my girl, Asada Shakur. Love and respect to her. I learned about her in the 80s. Just hearing about her struggle. That's when I came into knowledge of self, started building with the 5% Nation. Raised in Christianity. My grandmother was a pastor, but I kind of branched off into that and started studying Islam, and ran across her book, this autobiography called Asada, and learned so much about her. And again, I felt her spirit within me just reading her story. But she did pass away at the age of 78, September 25th this year. She was born Joanne Deborah Byron, also known as Joanne Chesimard. But again, she is famously known as Asada Shakur. So yeah, I have a lot to say about her. Shout out to Marmac, who's in the chat, again, adding to the conversation. He says, a rapture sounds like a hustle. Listen. So how does that work though? I guess so, because listen, I was reading that people was giving away things, their money, like they was giving away stuff because they figured the world was ending. So you're right. So yeah, that pastor was hustling. He probably had the whole congregation giving up stuff to him. Listen, I'll tell you, that man's smart right there. Shout out to Marmac. Yeah, you on to something. Yeah, it sounded like a hustle to me too. Yeah, but they've been talking about that for a minute, this rapture. But September 25th, I guess she was raptured, because again, he said 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So our lady, Asada Shakur, was caught up in the rapture of love. And she had a great legacy as well, if I do say so myself. You read the headlines about her, and people don't know her legacy, and it was just variations, right? Depending on, you can tell who was with her and who wasn't by the headlines. Again, we talked about headlines, how they pretty much contain whatever thoughts you may have, because the headline pretty much is the thesis of everything that comes after that, right? And look, so I treat this like my thesis, where we're in topic, we're broken down over pieces. I introduced and produced words so profuse. It's abuse how I juice up this beat like that's Lauryn Hill, final hour. You can get the money, you can get the power, keep your eyes on the final hour. But anyway, back to the point. The headlines are usually the thesis to what the person is trying to convey to you, to try to get you to reason with. And so some of the headlines read, convicted cop killer dead, convicted revolutionary died, black liberation activist dead, fugitive black militant dead, things like that. You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of get an idea of where they stand as far as how they feel about our ancestor Assata, based on the headlines, okay? Because we've been talking about that. And yes, Iceberg, shout out to Fidel Castro when America had him, wanted them to turn over Mr. Assata Shakur. He refused. And this is why, if you guys remember, I'm so grateful I had the opportunity, my sweetie and I had the opportunity to actually go to Havana, Cuba. In 2018, we went to Havana, Cuba. And in my mind, in my little, I don't know, girlish fantasy mind, I was like, oh my God, when I get there, I want to meet Assata. I want to interview her. I want to hug her. Like, it wasn't no way to set that up. But in my mind, I was hoping I bumped into her, But of course, because that's where she lived. She lived in Havana, Cuba, which is the capital of Cuba. And that's where she passed away. But yeah, so the reason why we were able to travel during that time without all of the restrictions, because some people can still travel for education purposes. And our travel was underlined under educational. And it was education. I learned so much. We went on tours and I learned so much about Cuba, and just beautiful, beautiful. And I could talk about that, but we don't have a lot of time. Yeah, so during the Obama administration, the President Barack Obama lifted the embargo. And so that allowed us to be able to travel, us regular people that weren't studying medicine. And so once Trump got back into office, it's said that the reason why he put the freeze back on so that we couldn't travel, because you guys can't just travel freely to Cuba anymore. So if you didn't take advantage of it, I'm so sorry. But it was said that when Trump became president, he put the embargo back on because they would not, the leadership would not release Assata to the United States. If you guys don't know, she was the first woman to be put on the FBI most wanted terrorist list. And so that's why that has been, we don't have access to Cuba in the way that we did in 2018 and the years prior. Which is a short window, right? I also think that he was trying to stop people of color from progressing, because one of the things in Cuba is you'll see there's a lot of cars from the 1950s, a lot of American cars, so them old school cars. If you think about shows like Grease, those are the kind of cars that you'll see, a lot of that, but they're not in good condition because you can't import. So there's a freeze. So if you're allies with the United States, you can't bring in you can't bring in supplies or parts for vehicles. They ration food. Doctors have the same ration as people who may be in domestic employment. I don't know. Just everybody, the food is rationed and things of that nature, because they did that to disable them and keep them poor for whatever reason that went back way beyond Assata. So, but again, I think, in my personal opinion, that was a good excuse. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But overall, I think that the Trump administration did not want to see the boom that would have taken effect, because everybody wanted to go to Cuba. Why wouldn't you want to go to Cuba and see your Black people? So that's what I think as well. So yeah, shout out to Fidel Castro. Simone, it's okay. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. And yeah, you can listen to the replay and hear some more good information, because I talked about Fannie Lou and some other things, AI. So thank you for joining me on Facebook. I appreciate you for it, fam. So she survived by her only child, her daughter, Kaikua Shakur, and I apologize if I'm butchering her name as well. But interesting fact is she's also the godmother to Tupac Shakur. So Assata's brother was married to Tupac's mom. So Tupac's stepfather, Tulu, is Assata Shakur's brother. And so she was his, not only his step aunt per se, but she was also the godmother to him. So for you guys to think about just how, what's the word I'm looking for? Complicated Tupac is, you can understand why, because his mom was also part of the Black Panther Party movement. But again, as I stated, she was the first woman on the most wanted terrorist FBI list and remained on there up until her death. Her name, Assata, was the name was taken on by many, Shakur, I should say. The name Shakur was taken on by many Black Party members during that time that she took on that name. And did I get that backwards? Shakur. So Shakur was the name taken on by many people of the Black Panther Party. And Assata, her first name, was the name of the Liberation Army. So yeah. They say she was convicted of murder in 1973 during a shootout where a cop was killed and was wounded. There was a $2 million bounty. I think initially she fled to the Bahamas or somewhere in the Caribbean, so I may have her first landing incorrect, but then she did end up in Cuba. So somebody broke her out of prison. Somebody broke her out of prison, and she got from one Caribbean island to Cuba, and so that. But I want to give you a little. I want to give you her words because she wrote about this, her experience with this, because she, to her death, denied killing this cop that she was charged for killing. So I'm going to read to you what she had to say, Assata Shakur, in her own words. She said, "Let me sip my tea before I start coughing again." All right. So in her own words, Assata said, "My name is Assata. She who struggles is what that means. Alug Blah, Alug Bala, which means for the people, Shakur, which means the thankful one. And I am a 20th century escaped slave. Because of government persecution, I was left with no other choice than to flee from the political repression, racism, and violence that dominate the US government's policy towards people of color. I am an ex-political prisoner, and I have been living in exile in Cuba since 1984. I have been a political activist most of my life, and although the US government has done everything in its power to criminalize me, I am not a criminal, nor have I ever been one. In the 1960s, I participated in various struggles: the Black Liberation Movement, the Student Rights Movement, and the movement to end the war in Vietnam. I joined the Black Panther COINTELPRO program because the Black Panther Party demanded the total liberation of Black people. J. Edgar Hoover called it the greatest threat to the internal security of the country, and vowed to destroy it and its leaders and its activists. And if you know the history of what J. Edgar Hoover did, you know why crack cocaine became the war on drugs, and that, there's a whole history behind that. She went on to say, on May 2nd, 1973, I, along with Zaid Malik Shakur and Sundiata Akoli, were stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike, supposedly for a faulty taillight. Sound familiar in 2025, y'all? Sundiata Akoli got out of the car to determine why we were stopped. Zaid and I remained in the car. State Trooper Harper then came to the car, opened the door, and began to question us. Because we were Black and riding in a car with Vermont license plates, he claimed he became suspicious. He then drew his gun, pointed it at us, and told us to put our hands up in the air in front of us where he could see them. I complied, and in a split second, there was a sound that came from the outside of the car. There was a sudden movement, and I was shot once with my arms held up in the air, and then once again from the back. Zaid Malik Shakur was later killed. Trooper Werner Foster was killed. And even though Trooper Harper admitted that he shot and killed Zaid Malik Shakur under the New Jersey felony murder law, I was charged with killing both Zaid Malik Shakur and who was my closest friend and comrade. Okay? And charged in the death of Trooper Forrester. Never in my life have I felt such grief, she went on to say. Zaid had vowed to protect me and to help me get to a safe place, and it was clear that he had lost his life trying to protect both me and Sundiata. Although he was also unarmed and the gun that killed Trooper Forrester was found under Zaid's leg, Sundiata Akoli was captured later and was also charged with both deaths. Neither Sundiata Akoli or I ever received a fair trial. We were both convicted in the news media way before the trials. No news media was ever permitted to interview us, although the New Jersey police and FBI fed stories to the press on a daily basis. In 1977, I was convicted by an all-white jury and sentenced to life plus 33 years in prison. In 1979, fearing that I would be murdered in prison and knowing what that I would never receive my justice, I was liberated from prison, aided by committed comrades who understood the depths of the injustices in my case and who were also extremely fearful for my life. I encourage you guys to read her book as well to learn more about that. So that's from Assata Shakur. That's from Assata Shakur. And yeah, so her daughter wrote on the day of her passing when she posted it that words cannot describe the depth of the loss that I'm feeling at this time. Yeah. So a lot of good quotes that she had as well. And some of them I just want to read you guys because I want this to kind of sit on your brain. I want you guys to think about this because the whole point of me having this conversation with you today is to encourage community, encourage us to I hope that this information fortifies you, strengthens you to continue with the fight and understand that we are all we got. We are all we got, and we have to do for self, and we have to be willing to make sacrifices. All of our sacrifices are not going to be the same. The simplest thing as voting, which shouldn't be a sacrifice, but that's one way of helping the movement. Just just getting the right people, just at least putting us in a position of being able to move the needle is one thing, but also us community, spending our money with each other, buying land and helping each other build generational wealth. We know that we can't depend on these outside people, and we'll talk more about that. But that is the purpose of this conversation today. So everything that I'm saying to you, I hope that some of it is seeking in and you understand that this is what we've been doing. We've always been doing this. Don't let anyone tell you that we just laid down. We didn't get down and we didn't lay down. We stayed in the fight until the end, and we continue on. And so some of the quotes that she has, some that come from her book and others that she has just said verbally, quote, nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Nobody in the world, nobody in history has ever gotten their freedom by appealing to the moral sense of the people who were oppressing them. Another quote, no one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them. We're living in that society now. They're doing everything they can to suppress us having knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and just flat out education, okay? Because they understand what that means. Remember when we were enslaved, some of our ancestors, they made it illegal to be able to read, okay? There's a reason for this. There's a reason why they're banning books. There's a reason why they're putting a lot of fake news and false information and alternative facts and being mad at people who are woke and banning books and all of that. There's a reason for that. She said, no one is going to give you the education you need to overthrow them. Nobody is going to teach you your true history. Teach you your true heroes if they know that knowledge will help set you free, okay? She also said, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We need to be weapons of mass construction, weapons of mass love. It is not enough to change the system. We need to change ourselves. And then another quote I'll end with. She said, only the strong go crazy. The weak just go along. Only the strong go crazy. The weak just go along. It's something to think about. So these quotes reflect Assata Shakur's belief in the power of education, love, self-determination, and the fight for liberation. They continue to inspire me and motivate me, and I hope it will do the same for you, seeking to challenge oppression on and build more of a just society, okay? We got. I don't want to talk about Tylenol. That is on my list. And I mentioned vaccine. And I just want you guys to go do the knowledge that Africans created vaccines. We've been trying to save this world for a long, long time. And we've been doing not too bad at it. So I just want to remind you guys that there is a call to action. There are things we can do. A lot of things I mentioned, there was a lot of breadcrumbs dropped, a lot of food for thought. Speaking of what Fannie Lou Hamer did, Assata Shakur, and many other people, is that we need to get our information from reputable and respectable and people that reliable resources. We need to turn to Black media and not be misled by white-owned Black media, biggity bliggity Black media. Okay, I forgot to share this video, so let me do that while I have you guys here into my group. But that's one of the things that we need to do, because we need to be able to get marching orders by any means necessary. There is an underground railroad, but publicly, we know there's a lot of misinformation and disinformation. So I encourage you to go to YouTube, watch people like Roland Martin. If you have Sirius XM radio, I encourage you to go to Urban View, channel 126, just morning to evening. There's a lot of knowledge, educated people who have our best interests at heart, and they bring on the best people, the best, and their leadership is authentic and very trusted. Read the South African news, the Roots, that's also black owned. Remember when BET was black owned? Remember they had a news channel, but they had a news section, but that didn't get as much popularity or views as did the videos, right? You know, the turn ups. So a lot of people weren't paying attention, but we need to wake up and stay focused on what's going on. Yes, we need to take a break and, decompress too. So I'm not saying don't do that, but don't turn your ears off on what's really happening in the world, because this is some real shit, y'all. This is really, really happening. It's happening in real time. So those are some of the things. Keep your ear to the real news. Not CNN, not Fox, because that ain't even news. They were sued for calling themselves news. They're a propaganda station, and they're basically, propaganda is in a way, basically is just having a station where, let's just say you think all dogs are vicious. So you just have a news channel where you just show every time you look up, a dog bit this dog. You never see anything about a dog saving a life, a dog being a helper to someone. I forgot what they call them, whatever, a help dog or whatever term they use. You just see on this channel, all they show you is dog. This dog ate this dog. This dog bit this person. No, the dog chased this person down the street. Oh, the mailman. Then they show you the clip from Friday where, what's his name? Bang, bang, bang. He got bit by a dog. They never show you any positive things about dogs. That's the point I'm making. So that's what propaganda is. They just give you a confirmation bias. If you believe all dogs are bad, you're going to tune in to Fox News. And that's exactly what you're going to see. All the negative things, not real information, truth on both sides, balanced information. You're just going to see one perspective to program your mind to think a certain way. We have to do for self. I was reading over the 2-week break, Publix. If you guys are not familiar with that, I think they're more popular in the South and back East. Public grocery store had pulled out of a Black Book Bash. Now, this is something that they voluntarily do. I'm going to say annually. This was a festival they do that's held October 3rd to the 5th. So it's already taken place, and I hear that it was successful. But Publix is a grocery store that volunteers annually to sponsor the Black Book Bash, but they just pulled out abruptly. And they said that the reason for pulling out was basically, it was due to the political climate. Okay. Service dog. Thank you, Marmac. Yes, service dog. So Publix said they pulled out because due to the political climate. The fuck? Like, everybody is bowing down to a presidency, and you want to think these people are scared because we still have a constitution, y'all. Freedom of speech is still freedom of speech. Like, nothing has changed except him pulling people out of positions and putting people in that are yes men. And so these people are bowing down. So some people are capitulating, but don't let them fool you. This is what they wanted to do. They just needed somebody to co-sign their behavior. And so this is what they're doing. So you can't convince me that, you got a problem with books. Anyway. So yeah, so they pulled out, and they have a lot of backlash over there, and people are boycotting them now. And I encourage those who shop at Publix nationwide or wherever they may be located to boycott if you can. Yeah, so that's a big deal. And the Black Book Bash is in Jacksonville. Again, they said it was successful. It was at the Hyatt Regency in celebration of Black literature and culture, where readers can meet authors, shop for Black-owned businesses, and visit vendors, and bookstores. Publix had been positioned as a title sponsor, but organizers say the company abruptly again pulled out, and they cited political climate. So listen, my Black people, what we do, again, I'm gonna give you a current story of someone, people who are alive today. What do we do with our lemons? We made lemonade. So organizers stressed that the festival would go on regardless. And like I said, it did go on. Today is October 11th, so that's past. But they were quoted as saying, "We didn't flinch. We doubled down When folks pull out, the community pulls up. You heard what she said. You heard what they said. And y'all have shown out. That was a quote. So the organizers announced in a statement on Instagram that Black Book Bash was built by us for us. The support, the shares and donations, the love, it has been overwhelming in the best way. If you're just finding us, welcome to the family. If you've been rocking with us, thank you for writing harder than ever. This is bigger than books. This is about Black stories, Black joy, Black freedom. This is what we need. You know, some people will say, "Oh, I'm glad all of this happened because now we have to do for self." We've been doing for self. We've been doing for self, but we've also been a community and allowed other people to come in and support us. But I did mention how we can't necessarily trust outsiders. And I'm going to try to get some clips in that kind of speak to that, because even though people have good intentions, when it's time for the revolution, when it's time, if you think about even now with ICE, if you think about what's happening in Gaza, how many of the Jewish people are housing those people who are fleeing genocide right now? How many of those people are, because we know this is wrong. When you think about the Holocaust, how many of those people who were not Jewish were trying to protect those people who were being put in gas chambers? How many people right now are trying to fight for the rights of Black people who are being disproportionately killed by police officers? You know what I'm saying? They smile on your face. Some of us, we invite them to the cookout, but are they really, really all of that? The message is we're good people. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want people bothering us. We just want to be left alone and live our peaceful, successful lives. Look around in history. We have never gone anywhere and tried to colonize any continent, any country, any place. And I'm going to play a clip that speaks to that, because I just think it's important that we, give ourselves credit and just really, really just think about the fact of how great we are and how people know how great we are. And they try their best to keep us oppressed, to keep their knees on our neck, and to keep us from being, as a community, they put in this racism thing. They keep us divided because as long as we're fighting each other, talking about Mexicans and talking about gays and talking about welfare recipients and just talking about things that really don't really affect our daily life, don't affect our digestive system, our sleep patterns, but it keeps us distracted from what they're doing to us, then they are winning. And so that is just their overall goal. Their game has never changed. They have never deviated from what they've been doing. It's just us who keep getting scrambled around. So I want to play this clip where there's a Black man or African man who talks about, he says, our ancestors have never left anything behind. So let me play that.
This is the first time I would say I am really, really proud of my ancestors because they left nothing behind. Nothing at all. I've traveled the world as a Black man, and I have never seen a Black country where the people who live in it are foreigners that were brought there by Blacks as slaves. Not one single country. Yet the Black race has more countries on earth than any other country. 54 are on the continent. 13 Black countries in the Caribbean. So 68 Black countries. There's not a single Black country where slaves were bought from outside by Black people. I've traveled the world, not a single country in the world colonized by a Black country. There's nowhere you go on Mother Earth where the language they are speaking was imposed on them by force by a Black country. I've traveled the world and I've never seen a religion that is imposed upon anybody anywhere in this world by a Black country. The 68 Black countries in the world, the largest continent by number of countries, not a single one of them has a nuclear weapon of mass destruction. Black countries across the world, none of them is responsible for what we call the military complex, where we are manufacturing dirty bombs and sending things into the water to pollute people. I've traveled the world and I'm yet to see one product that was forced to be sold in another country by a Black country. So it means the Black race is the only race on earth that represent what the United Nations have been looking for the last 100 years. Peace. Yes? We fought internal wars just like anybody, and that is all we did. Therefore, in my travels, there was no place I went on earth where the people there pointed fingers at me and say, your people did this to me. Never. The Black person is the only one who travels this earth and no one who point a finger. That's what my ancestors left behind. Nothing.
Holy shit. His ancestors left nothing behind. So you tell me, where have we gone as a people and tried to colonize them? You have a whole people who came, pushed from their own country, mistakenly landed. They thought they were going, I want to say, to India, and mistakenly came to America and took over the country, took it away from the natives who were here at the time, and forced them to speak English. And to this day, y'all's current president has an executive order making English the official language. He did it last time he was in office, and of course, that was rescinded because executive orders can be rescinded by the following president. But he put that as English being the predominant, the official language here in the United States, in a country that was stolen from people who spoke a totally different language. And that's what we mean by colonizers. When you come in and you strip people of their culture, you strip people of their resources, you strip people of everything that they were accustomed to, and then you try to change it and make it what you want it to be. The worst part about these colonizers coming here and doing what they're doing, it's just corrupt. It's like disease. It's like it's like the things that they. It's like processed food. It mutates into your body and creates cancers and high blood pressure and heart disease and things that your body doesn't understand and doesn't like, and it causes you to die. It does not breed life into you. This is what these people have come to this continent and to this country and done. But nowhere has a black man done that ever. And you go to the continent of Africa and they teach their children, they teach their students English, they teach their students um, the Chinese language, which escapes me right now, the actual term for the language, Mandarin, Chinese. They teach them, these people speak many languages. Five is the minimum that people speak. So there is an official language. You need to be able to communicate with everyone. Different tribes have different languages. People that look just like you speak a totally different languages on that continent. And so instead of oppressing you and suppressing your knowledge and suppressing who you are as a person and your culture, they learn, and so that they can better communicate with you and be of a community with you. But these particular people, they just want to take over. It's like a disease. They just want to destroy, not build. They want to destroy. Interesting, I'm hearing a lot of people say that. I talked about that last year, talking about mathematics, when 2024 was a build or destroy year. And I'm hearing people talk about that more today, build or destroy. I don't know if they know they speak in mathematics. But anyway, and so that's what we're up against. And the crazy thing is, listening to another lady who brought some information talking about the Congo. All of the resources, your cell phones, the resources for your cell phones come from the continent of Africa, come from Congo, in places where people are, you know, basically sweatshops, for lack of a better term, right now are being forced to labor to bring us these things. Okay, but it isn't the African people, it is people from other places coming into these places, destroying the beautiful land, destroying all of the resources. All of the resources come from the continent of Africa, and then they are bringing them here. And I thought this was something interesting. This was a young lady talking about how, again, I talked about how we're good people. We don't go around trying to get revenge or take away or take over. We just want to be left the fuck alone. Okay. And that's not easily done. People go to the motherland and use our resources to help further destroy the world. So this is interesting information about the Congo, how people are going into the Congo and using the resources, not the African people, not the natives of the continent, but people who are coming into the continent, taking these resources and bringing them to other countries and using them for bad.
I recently learned something about the Congo that absolutely blew my mind. And I know it's going to blow yours too, because this is not widely known information. And, hopefully my page doesn't get taken down for this. Because remember, guys, we must protect the war machine. We must protect the war machine at all costs. The war machine is our friend. So this is what I learned. The bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were made from minerals that come from the Congo.
I'm gonna let that sink in and say it again. The bombs that America dropped on Japan in World War II were only made possible because of Congolese minds. I don't even know where to begin. Oh my goodness. I feel like bursting into tears right now from the sheer overwhelm of how much work needs to be done and how far behind we are. Because when we talk about the Congo, we're always talking about, cell phones and electric cars and batteries and shit, when in reality, the Congo is also essential to the war machine. In fact, there is no war machine as we know it today without the Congo, without African minerals in general. And this is why they had to assassinate Lumumba, because he was not going to give them access anymore to those mines. Congo has been exploited for decades. I am so sorry. I don't even know where to begin with this. Like, I don't even know what to do with this information because of how grave it is. There is no war machine without Congo, without Africa. Like, I need this to sink in. And how do I know about this? Because I watched this documentary called Soundtrack to the Coup d'etat, or Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat, which is a documentary about how the CIA arranged this concert in the Congo. They sent Black American artists like Louis Armstrong and Nina Simone and other jazz artists to Congo to distract people from the CIA-backed coup d'etat that was happening, to deflect from what they were doing.
Distractions.
I'm gonna just end the video here.
And she did. So we have resources. We don't use our powers for bad. Historically, we have not used our powers for bad. China made gunpowder. Europeans used it for bad. They use it to take over a country. They use it to bully the world. They use atomic bomb. Africa doesn't have atomic bombs. Okay? Don't let people tell you that we are the enemy. Know who your enemy is. Know who your enemy is. Shout out to Roland Martin, who really, drilled down on black tax. People talk about how it's hard for us to get ahead, and that we should be where the rest of the country is, because we've had civil rights and we've had affirmative action and all these things. And you've heard me talk about how whenever we take 2 steps forward, they push us 4 steps back. It's a big fight. It's a big fight to just be left alone and to be able to maintain, to be able to feed our kids, to educate our kids, to live comfortably and at peace. It's a constant battle. And the other side is not good. They're not good people at all. They have no good intentions. They have no good intentions at all. And he talks about a black tax. And, it's just really sad. And I'll just bring this quote in before I play him as well. And it goes back to the late, great Mr. Joe Madison, who I miss deeply. He said, in America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that the white is superior, Black is inferior. And the manifestation of that cultural condition is that Black people are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. And again, I've said this, and I probably will try to get this clip in before we close out, because we will be closing out shortly, of how I've said over and over again in most of these shows, that race was a made-up construct, and it was used as a commodity, again, to keep us distracted, to keep us fighting against each other, to beef about who's superior, who's wrong, who's right, when that's not what it is. That's not what it is. And just to kind of just add to that conversation, I want to play a clip. It was a doctor. I'm trying to get his name up. I want to say it's Dr. Joel. If I could remember his name, I hate when that happened. Let me see. It's Dr. Joel. Let's see. Yeah, I can. Okay, it's coming to me. So it's Dr. Joel Burvell, and he's on IG and TikTok. Dr. Joel Burvell, and I encourage you guys to go and follow him and listen to him, because he knows what he's talking about. He is a Black man, and he talks about race, and he talks about so many different other things, just discrepancies in medical just treatment of Black people based on racism, and he even has a cartoon channel for kids. Maybe I'll post that on my social media so you guys can introduce it to your kids as well if they're not familiar with it. Very educational, not this propaganda shit that y'all be seeing, because people think cartoons are automatically innocent, but we know they pressing some lies in these cartoons. But I want to play this clip, and I like the way um, he explained race, because there's a lot of conversation about race and what it is, and so I'm going to let you hear his explanation and some of the myths that he debunks. So here we go. Let me just go ahead and press play on here. And just give me a minute here because I am the producer. So it should go. Let me go back in.
Yeah, a lot of the things I talk about are things I've heard from other people or even in classes. One of the most common myths I feel like I've heard is that Black people have thicker skin or feel less pain. And I think that goes into studies that have shown that Black patients are less likely to get pain medication. But that myth goes back to centuries. Two doctors like J. Marion Sims, as we talked about, the quote unquote father of gynecology, 19th century medical texts that claimed that Black people didn't feel pain the same way that white people, even though that's completely false. Research today shows that those beliefs still show up in medical decisions, from how we prescribe pain medications to how seriously we take patient symptoms. I think another big one, and it's actually overlying a lot of the conversations I have, is that race is biological, which it's not. And even I think some people in our own community get that one wrong. And so what that means when I say that race is biological is that in 2000, a draft of the Human Genome Project was done. And it essentially showed that in our genes, there is no one single gene for race. How we think about race is what's called a social construct, meaning that where you're born, where you live, the time you're at, all those things impact how you are going to be seen racially. Sometimes we do it by skin color. Sometimes we do it by eye color. Sometimes we do it by hair color. What it means to be Black in Brazil is not the same as what it means to be Black in the United States or Black in Ghana. And so, but unfortunately, medicine for centuries has treated it as if biology is related to race. And so whether it's the race-adjusted algorithms I talked about before with the kidney function scores, but those types of equations exist everywhere. And we're only finally starting to learn that, but there's still a long way to go.
And what does that mean? Because unfortunately, people are wedded to these made-up constructs, these social constructs. And, when people call up and they tell me they're white, I ask them, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And they've never been asked that before. And I hear them struggling.
Yeah.
But you're so strong in it, but you have never thought about it. And now you have to think about it. Like, what does it mean to be white? Well, okay, you could be Irish, Polish, Italian, Swedish, French. You could be German. But what is white?
Exactly.
And then they'll get flustered, because that's what happens when people, well, what does it mean to be Black? I said it's in juxtaposition to whiteness. So I absolutely understand that Blackness is a made-up construct that we, like chitlins, have made into something very powerful or delicious, tasty, or whatever. But I know it's a construct. Yeah. We're human.
Yeah.
Which is why we can procreate. A lion and a tiger, they can procreate, but what they procreate is sterile, like a mule, a donkey, and a horse. They make something that is not natural because they're not the same species.
Exactly. And I mean, just even to that point, like when I think about race, like exactly what you just said, when you start asking the whys, you begin to realize that people don't have the answers to it. So when I was at Yale, I took molecular cellular developmental biology. I think it was.
Wait, slow down. You took what now? Molecular?
My major in college was molecular cellular developmental biology. And I absolutely loved it because it stripped away all the skin and all that kind of stuff. And we looked at cells, realizing that the way we all work is the same. What's different is ancestrally where we came from and how those genes have changed in order to make us survive, right? You go back to quote unquote Darwinism and how we all learned about the Galapagos Islands and how different birds adapted based on, a lot of the things I talk about are things I've heard from other people or even in classes. One of the most common myths I feel like I've heard is that Black people have thicker skin or feel less pain.
So again, yeah. So I just wanted to just put that in there for food for thought. When we talk about race, if you ask a white person, what does it mean to be white? What does it mean to be white? We understand why we have the title black. That puts us at the global majority. But what does it mean to be white? What does that say about your ethnicity? Does that tell me who you are or where you're from, um, versus a black person? When we say we're black, it's just food for thought, you guys. There's a lot of stereotypes that are put out there for us. And we have to undo those things. They talk about crime. They talk about how, we're so bad. With the majority of mass killings are done by white men. The majority of violent crime, over 53% of violent crime, is committed by white men. Majority of murders are committed by white men, and they make up 60% of the population. And so, if you think about it, why aren't they targeting more of these people and trying to get these people locked up? Even when you think about ICE, you don't see them going into white communities. If you go into a city like New York, there's a predominant influx, millions of people who are Irish that would be considered white by the way of their skin that are immigrants, but you don't see them pulling up to their neighborhoods and pulling up to their workplaces. They're pulling up to places with people with brown skin. And for those who didn't care about it being the Hispanic community or Mexicans or people from other countries, you see now, if you've paid attention to Chicago, where 300 people were zip tied, including children, and sat there until they got a release to see that they weren't any warrants by way of ICE to determine if they should be locked up. They're going after brown people. And so we're all being affected. And that's one of the things that I reiterated the most when we were just trying to get people to at least vote. That was the easiest part for those who didn't have the energy to protest in the streets, for those who didn't have the energy to run for office, for those who didn't have the energy to do all of the other things that are still necessary, because that's just one step, voting. That was the thing. But people got hoodwinked, bamboozled, ran amok, and led astray by going for the okie doke, worrying about the Vice President Kamala Harris' skin color, ethnicity, race. Was she black? Was she white? Her policy, even though she said everything that would benefit everybody. Oh, that's not for the black people. It was just so much. And that's what the other side was very, very good at. And the Democratic Party still struggles, even to this day, with just pretty much getting people to understand the importance of voting on the other side, because that's where your interests lay. That's where your interests lay, and that's what's important. You can't get caught up in the name so much. You can't be banging with the blue and red. You got to think about your interests, and that's all that we've all tried to do. Those of us who just try to keep us out of this mess. And again, I know we have people that say what they say. It's good that this happened, but it's not good. I know people right now who aren't getting certain medical care because it's been benefits have been cut. There are people who have mental health issues that are getting Social Security who cannot work full time, and even if they wanted to, they couldn't because they would not get their benefits. Those same people, their Social Security has been cut, so they're struggling. So many people are struggling right now because of the cuts that have taken place under this administration that would not have happened had we been under a different leadership. And so, for those who think this is funny games, until it happens to you, sad that so sad that you would wait until it happens to you before you feel the sting. But it's really, really sad. I also want to just reiterate one of the things that Mr. Joe Madison would say. I want to remind you guys to do for self, and that we have to be community and buy black. There's lots of black businesses. Find ways to build generational wealth within the community. We know we have to do for self. We can't depend on the outsiders, and we can't really let outsiders in because they come to infiltrate, and then again, they destroy what we built. But he gave an analogy of the lap dog and the Doberman, and some of us are lap dogs, and we know as a lap dog, they sit on your lap, you can pet them and rub them. But if you have a Doberman pincher, he ain't sitting on your lap and you ain't rubbing him. She ain't sitting on your lap and you ain't rubbing her. Okay. And so we got to be more Dobermans and lap dogs. We can't just let people rub us and soothe us and make us feel comfortable. So much more I wanted to get into, but I try to keep this down to an hour and a half. And so maybe I'll get into a little bit more next week. There's a YouTube podcast called Grits and Eggs. I encourage you guys to listen to that too. He be spitting some game, and he's about his life. He don't just speak about it; he is about it. So Grits and Eggs podcast. Also, again, the doctor. I encourage you guys to follow him on YouTube. And these are all resources. We need to build our community so that we know where to look to and come to. So again, go to the what did I say, Doctor? Yeah, what is his name? Dr. Joel Bervell. That's Berv as in Victor ELL. Find him on IG and TikTok. Dr. Joel Bervell. Grits and Eggs podcast is dope. Um, let's see. And I'll just close out with this. You know, we all we got. We all we got, you guys. We need to do for self. We need to understand how important that is and that we have the ability to do it. I've given you many examples of those who have done it before, and we will continue. As long as we're here on earth, this is what we got to do. And I just want to encourage you guys to do that. Do for self. And I want to close out with some little mental health things. Another thing I want to mention too before I close out with this mental health clip is that I heard a wise man say, listening to Urban View, Sirius XM, they were speaking to the elders and saying what their experience has been post or pre civil rights. And one man, a wise man, said that we pay for the things that we want and we beg for the things that we need. We pay for the things that we want and then we turn around and beg for the things we need. Okay. And another quote I want to say is when God gives you gifts, they're not for yourself. People pay for what they want and they beg for what they need. So those are the two quotes I want to leave you with. And then to close out with this clip of a young Black man who is giving you some advice on how to, what your symptoms are and how to treat them. If I can find it, I know I have it because I put it on here. And yeah, uh, I might not get to it, but let me see if I can before we close out, you guys, because this is the end of it. I also want to just say thank you guys also for listening and watching and definitely commenting in the chat. So let me go ahead and do that as well while I'm finding this last clip I want to close out with. Let me just show some love to my people. Okay, so I think I found it. So let me just go ahead and close you guys out with this. Young Black brother. I think it's B. I think it's, what is his name? B. I don't know. What is his name? He's here. He's here. Anyway, it's B Dub Artist. B Dub Artist. Anyway, here we go before we close out. Let me go ahead and just play this.
Frustration. If you feel like everyone hates you, sleep. Lack of rest makes your mind misread every social cue. If you feel anxious for no reason, walk. Movement clears cortisol from your body. If you feel unmotivated, take a cold shower. That shock releases dopamine and wakes up your system. If you feel stressed, chew gum. Your brain reads it as safety, and cortisol drops instantly. If you feel overwhelmed, clear your space. External order brings internal peace. If you feel insecure, stand tall. Your posture sends confidence signals back to the brain. If you feel lonely, help someone. Acts of service releases oxytocin, the connection hormone. If you feel hopeless, plan one small action. Momentum destroys despair. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, so that's it. Love and respect. Thank you guys again. I'll be back next weekend. We're gonna do try to get after dark in too. You know how we just let our hair down and sip and enjoy each other's company and talk about some things that matter and some things that don't. But in the meantime, stay well, be safe, love each other, and community is very important. We all we got, guys. Much love.